retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Yeah, we ran out of patience. Boil up with the cold hard hatred. I can feel the vibration. Feet in the streets, it's a new sensation. I wanna break faces on the pavement. I wanna make greatness look complacent. Adrenaline awakened, I can taste it. We can make an impact, grab and then take it. Like a disease, bring them to their knees. Things that they hate to see. Just like the wind.
Ladies and gents, I am the one and only DJ Storms. I would like to welcome each and every single one of you back here to yet another special edition stream on a Monday. I never do streams on a Monday. This is a special occasion. This is not going to be a reoccurring thing, so please do not get used to it. This and then the rewind for WrestleMania Night 2, which is going to be on Monday, April 3rd. That really is the only 2 times this year, perhaps, that you're probably going to see me streaming on a Monday. And I am a little bit more toned down right now. And the reason being is because I specifically want to focus on the content that we saw. I specifically want to focus on the content that we saw last night in San Francisco. It has certainly been a very, very rocky road for All Elite Wrestling over the course of the last 6 to 8 months, I would say. It has certainly been a rocky road. It has not been what we all remember it to be, and I completely understand that. But after last night's show, after what we got last night at Revolution, it is very, very hard for me to sit here and think to myself, are there really people that are going to tell me that what we saw last night at Revolution did not embody professional wrestling? And that's the sad part about it all. That is all my mind kept on going to. And it sucks because I don't want to think about that, but I can't help but think about that just because of how passionate I am about this sport and what it's done for me and what it's done for many people, what it's done for us, and how it's just captivated us over the years. But I know for a fact that there's going to be some mindless zombies with fucking WWE Abbies as their profile pic that are going to go up and down on social media and try and say all this bullshit for the sake of attention because they got nothing better to do with their lives. I know for a fact we're going to get that. I know for a fact that there's going to be some grown-ass Indian dude who's about 2 decades older than me that's going to bitch and moan, well, I didn't really like the blood in the Texas death match. I thought it was pretty gross. Oh, the poor little Indian boy, the poor little 40-year-old Indian boy that works for Wrestling Inc. didn't like the blood in the Texas death match. I know for a fact that there's going to be a group of 60-year-old dinosaurs who are still stuck in the 1980s. One of them is still living off the success that he had with WCW, but can't seem to find any success in 2023. Another one is some idiot from Smoky Mountain Wrestling who carries around a tennis racket. And then another one is an old Mexican geezer who still is acting as if he's in the Mexican mafia trying to relive his high school days and act all cool when he's not. I know for a fact that there's going to be those individuals that are going to come out and say whatever fucking excuses that they want to say to try and invalidate what we saw last night. But I am going to tell you this straight up, and I never really push the narrative of something is perfect or something is damn near perfect, but what we got with Revolution last night, despite the faults that we've seen from AEW over the course of the last 6 to 8 months, despite the kinks in the armor, what we got was perhaps the best, and I mean the absolute best produced All Elite Wrestling pay-per-view that we've seen to date. It is a show that was damn near perfect. And I never use that. I never want to come out and say that something is perfect or this was close to perfect or that was close to perfect. But what we got last night was the closest thing to perfection that we could possibly get when it comes to a professional wrestling show. Now, the build for this show was half-assed. It was there. We did have some storylines going into the show. It's not like the show was all matches with no storylines. We did have some matches with storylines going into the show. But the problem is that the card was pieced together 3 weeks before the show. Meanwhile, Tony Khan should have been announcing matches in January. We should have gotten multiple matches in January announced rather than the majority of the card being flushed out legitimately 2.5, 3 weeks before the show. And that is something that I hope is to be rectified. They got a lot of shit that they need to work on. They got a lot of shit that they need to rectify. No one is going to come on here and tell me that the company is where it needs to be or where it should be. But at the end of the day, we haven't gotten bad shows. And we did get some build, but it seems as though half the card had build, and then the other half of the card was pieced together last minute. But what we got with Revolution was perhaps the best flowing AEW pay-per-view to date. It was absolutely the best Revolution pay-per-view that we've seen to date. And it could arguably go down as the best All Elite Wrestling pay-per-view to date, period. And it will for sure be a contender for the pay-per-view of 2023. I will abso-fucking-lutely be a contender for the pay-per-view of 2023. The match card had the perfect amount of matches. The crowd was excellent. The show flowed beautifully. Every match was paced perfectly. Every match got the proper amount of time. And above all else, every single match, this is the most important factor. Every single match on the show had the right outcome. Tony Khan has made some questionable decisions over the course of the last 6 months to 8 months. I know it. You know it. I've seen it. I've talked about it. Tony Khan's got a lot of shit to work on, whether it be making sure that championship reigns actually mean something and no championship is flip-flopped back and forth, and we actually get each championship reign having a solid amount of time with said holder, whether it be the All-Atlantic title, whether it be the TNT title, whether it be the women's title, whether it be the World Championship, every single championship holder getting a solid amount of time with the championship. He needs to work on not overstuffing the show. He needs to work on making sure that every show has the proper amount of matches and it's not overstuffed to a point where they're trying to cram 6-7 matches with 15 different segments into a 2-hour show. He needs to pace the shows, the weekly shows, a lot better. They haven't been bad, but they can be overstuffed. But at Revolution, Tony Khan listened to the fans. The fans, they spoke as to what outcomes we needed. I spoke as to what outcomes that needed to happen. I spoke about what outcomes were a necessity, and that's exactly what Tony Khan did. Every match had the right outcome. Outside of the fact that Wardlow and Samoa Joe were put in a death spot because there was no way that anyone was going to follow what we saw with Jon Moxley and Adam Page in that Texas Death Match, there was absolutely no following it, no matter what you want to say. That match was something so special that it would legitimately be impossible to follow. But outside of that, I have nothing bad to say about this show. Nothing at all. Outside of that, nothing. My hands are clean of any negativity. My hands are clean of any overbearing criticism. This show was as perfect of a show as you could get. Unbelievable. An unbelievable spectacle of a show from start to finish, headlined by what could ultimately go down as one of, if not the greatest Iron Man match of all time. It was unbelievable what we saw in that main event. And the last thing that I'm going to say before I get into the full content of what we saw, the last thing I will say is what we need as far as this pay-per-view goes going into the future. This pay-per-view must be the blueprint for all AEW pay-per-views going forward. 8 matches, 4 hours, perfectly paced, no bullshit in between. If you want to do one match on the 0 hour pre-show, you do one match on the 0 hour pre-show. This is exactly what we need from all AEW pay-per-views going forward. A picture-perfect card, a picture-perfect layout. Everything flowed very, very nicely. And in the end, with AEW Revolution, we got ourselves the best Revolution pay-per-view to date, probably the best AEW pay-per-view to date, and a contender for pay-per-view of the year. I knew it was going to be great. I knew the show was going to be great because AEW pay-per-views are always great. But this blew my expectations out of the water for sure. AEW Revolution 2023, one hell of a fucking show. And I am very ecstatic that you guys are joining me here to talk about it. Hooligrim, DD, Paul, a.k.a. The Shooter, Peanuts. You guys are great. I greatly appreciate you guys stopping by. And I am very ecstatic to be able to talk about AEW Revolution 2023. Before we get into what we need to get into, please make sure if you guys have not already done so that you are following me on Twitter, as you can see in the banner below, right over there. Please make sure that you're following me on Twitter and Instagram at HistoryMakerDJS. That is at HistoryMakerDJS, both on Twitter and Instagram. Please make sure that you add me on Facebook as well. We are actually streaming live on my personal Facebook, so we are getting a wider outreach than usual. Please make sure if you're not following me there that you go and follow me there as well. Please make sure for collaborations and business inquiries that you send me an email. My email is, of course, StormsTakeOver@gmail.com. Please make sure that you like the official DJ Storms business page, and I may just send you an invite to join the official DJ Storms Posse group on Facebook. That is, all of those links are in the description. Please make sure, if you have not already done so, that you go and check out Brittany K. Brittany K, she is an official sponsor of the DJ Storms brand, and she is a very good friend of mine. She does excellent designs and drawings and edits for all different types of professional wrestlers: Bray Wyatt, Jay Briscoe, Braun Strowman, and the late great Brody Lee, Jon Moxley, the House of Black. She is phenomenal at what she does. So if you're looking for excellent, handcrafted on an iPad wrestler drawings, designs, edits, if you want some Twitter banners, some Twitter avies, you go to her for it. She is phenomenal at what she does. Go and follow her at Brittany K 5150 on Twitter and Brittany K Designs on Instagram. Both of her social media links are in the description. She is phenomenal at what she does, so shout out to her. Please make sure that you are liking the stream when you come on in, whether you're watching on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. It is vital that you do so because we want to get as many people in here as possible. Share it out on all platforms, social media, including Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, whatever social media platforms that you may be using. We want to get as many people in here as possible because we want to get a wide outreach, and everybody needs a little daily dose or a weekly dose or a monthly dose or a yearly dose or whatever dose. Everybody needs some dosages of DJ Storms in their life because I make people's lives better. DJ Storms makes people's lives better. It is a known fact that I do. Please. So make sure that you're sharing out the stream on all platforms, social media. Please make sure, if you haven't already done so, if you're watching on YouTube, whether it be my YouTube channel or the Hardcore Sports YouTube channel, share it out. Share it out and hit the subscribe button because we want to grow. Hardcore Sports wants to grow. We are rapidly approaching 300 subscribers. So check out the Hardcore Sports YouTube channel down there or the Twitter at Hardcore Sports and Instagram Hardcore Sports Network and Twitter and Twitch, Twitch Hardcore Sports 1 because we want to be the #1 brand in all sports analytics. We're reviewing baseball and football and hockey and basketball, lacrosse and UFC and wrestling, everything in between. We want to make sure that you guys get the best sports analytical content that you can. So please make sure that you are following Hardcore Sports on all of their social media links. And of course, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. We are rapidly approaching 2,100 subscribers. The shorts are working like a charm, so I will be uploading some shorts throughout the week as well. Please make sure that you hit the subscribe button for my channel and, of course, hit that notifications bell with a huge coup de grace. That way you will know whenever I pop up on YouTube. Because whenever I pop up on YouTube, oh, baby, you already know that it is the best time to be on YouTube because it's the only time that you will get to see this glorious sideburn chin strap combination and this beautiful mustache right here. Give me 1 second. Now, Earl's not here. He's actually at work right now, but we are still going to light it up for him. We're going to do it for Earl here because we got this beautifully crafted magical ace comb, and we're going to light it up on the stream with a little and a dash of and a whole lot of because like a beautifully crafted Subway sandwich. I personally prefer the chicken bacon ranch melt Subway sandwiches because man, anything with chicken and bacon on a nice melt with some provolone cheese and maybe some ranch sauce and nice toasted flatbread. That shit right there. That right there is good. You already know the deal. I am the tastiest snack in the IWC. Everybody wants a piece of the Storms Meister. But enough of the chit chat. Let's actually get right into the festivities here. We got ourselves the 0 hour. 0 hour. We had one match on 0 hour, and this actually worked out brilliantly. I actually think that this is a strategy that they should absolutely employ. One match on the pre-show is all that you need. And we got ourselves Mark Briscoe and the Lucha Bros versus Ari Daivari and the Varsity Athletes. This is Tony Nese and Josh Woods. I understand some people's criticisms of the Varsity Athletes and how they just kind of feel like a nothing team. But let me tell you something. They are 3 very, very good professional wrestlers. They really are. They are 3 excellent professional wrestlers. Ari Daivari, very underrated. Very underrated. He's liked and retweeted a lot of my tweets. So Ari Daivari is DJ Storms approved. Ari Daivari's always been DJ Storms approved. He has been a listener, I can tell. He's been a listener of the show for quite a few years now, since his days on 205 Live. So Ari Daivari's awesome. And then you got the Varsity Athletes. Tony Nese has always been great, but Josh Woods has really been developing a nice, solid reputation for himself. Josh Woods and Mark Briscoe put on a pretty decent match on Dynamite a couple weeks ago. And then Josh Woods actually put on a great match with Konosuke Takeshita this past Thursday on Ring of Honor television. So they went in there with Mark Briscoe and the Lucha Bros, and they put on one hell of a match. I thought that this match was great. A great match to kick off the Revolution card on the 0 hour. This went about 13 minutes, and all 6 of these guys, they meshed up very well together. They put their best foot forward, and the varsity athletes, they had a nice presentation with the spotlights and Mark Sterling introducing them. They look like a decent fucking trio. So I actually want to see more of Ari Daivari and the varsity athletes. I think that they're very good at what they do, and if anything, if they want to really dabble in them being the Ring of Honor 6-man tag team champions when the time is right, of course, I would not mind that. I think that would be a great move. I'd love to see them versus the Embassy, probably put them in there with the Death Triangle. I'd love to see them in there with Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends. I think that they got a nice makeup. So this was a great match to kick off the show, and the crowd was very much hyped for it. Mark Briscoe, I'm very, very happy that he's getting the showcase, and supposedly Mark Briscoe will be fighting Samoa Joe at Supercard of Honor for the Ring of Honor World Television Championship, and I do believe that Mark Briscoe is going to win the championship. But the babyfaces were in control early on. Mark Briscoe then with a blockbuster off the apron. Very, very nice. Josh Woods was out. Penta was then isolated by Daivari. Penta then with a tornado DDT. Sling blade on Woods. Tag, in comes Phoenix. Phoenix with a beautiful spin kick on Daivari. A beautiful corkscrew arm drag. And then a nice knee by Woods. Woods kneed Phoenix right out of the air. Right out of the air. Very nicely done. Penta saved the match. Tag to Briscoe. We had some of those redneck kung fu chops. So Mark Briscoe was lighting them up. The redneck kung fu chops to the neck, which I find hilarious. We then had an enziguri on Josh Woods by Mark Briscoe. Drop kick to Tony Nese. Neck breaker on Daivari. The Jay Briscoe neck crank. Then Briscoe then brought in a chair. He set it up in the ring. He delivered a step up. Tope con hero off the chair to Nese and Woods. Nese then tried to cut off Mark Briscoe when he went for the froggy bow. Nese and Woods were then up on the top rope. The Lucha Bros came in, and we got ourselves a Tower of Doom superplex on the varsity athletes and Mark Briscoe. Tony Nese was actually in the opposite corner. He delivered a beautiful 450 on Mark Briscoe. Tony Nese has one of the best 450s that I've personally seen. It's him and AR Fox. Those two have some great looking 450s. So after that, Briscoe was able to kick out. Everyone started taking out everyone. Everyone started getting their shit in. Daivari then hit Briscoe with what looked to be Mark Sterling's tablet. I actually thought that the varsity athletes and Ari Daivari were going to steal it there, but Briscoe kicked out. Crowd popped. We had double super kicks to Daivari by the Lucha Bros, spin kick to Nese, some nice double team action, and we ended up seeing the beautiful diving elbow drop, the froggy bow by Mark Briscoe, and Mark Briscoe pins Daivari to get the win in what was a great trios match. And to me, it was probably one of the best 0 hour matches ever. This was probably one of the best pre-show matches for AEW that we've ever seen. The second best, I would say, and coincidentally, it took place last year at Revolution. It was Pac, Penta, El Cero Miedo, and the Eric Redbeard. Eric Redbeard came in for a one-off, and those three took on the House of Black at Revolution. That right there was probably the second best 0 hour match that I've personally seen. And this one kind of took the cake here, especially because the crowd very hyped up for both teams. And we got ourselves a great match on 0 hour to kick off Revolution. I definitely want to see more of Ari Daivari and the varsity athletes. I think they could be a very nice staple on Ring of Honor television. And Mark Briscoe, I do believe that Mark Briscoe will become the new Ring of Honor World Television Champion. Where do the Lucha Bros go? I don't know. Maybe the Lucha Bros, they dabble into the tag team title scene. Maybe if we get a new tournament to crown new Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions, maybe we see the Lucha Bros dabble in Ring of Honor for a little bit. I'd love to see that. Maybe the Lucha Bros go after the Guns. Although I'm not sure if the Lucha Bros are going to win. Maybe we see Pac back, and maybe we see the House of Black versus the Death Triangle one more time. Either way, we got a great match on 0 Hour, and Mark Briscoe and the Lucha Bros take the win. Chris Jericho versus Absolute Ricky Starks with the JAS banned from ringside. I think that these two have done a fairly decent job at keeping everyone intrigued. It hasn't been the best Chris Jericho feud that we've seen, but it has certainly been something to get Ricky Starks in the spotlight, and it has elevated Ricky Starks tenfold, and I am very, very happy to see that. One thing I find funny is I love how people always say that Chris Jericho never puts anybody over. I find it so funny how they say that Chris Jericho never puts anyone over, yet in the last 3 months, we have seen Chris Jericho put over Claudio, he put over Ricky Starks twice, and he put over a fucking nobody in Action Andretti and gave him a prime spotlight on Dynamite. And he put over all of those guys clean. He put over all those guys clean. There was no fuckery. There was no bullshit. He put over every single one of those guys clean. But Chris Jericho doesn't put anybody over. Retards everywhere, as I always say. This was not as good as their match as what we saw on Dynamite. However, this was still a great match, and to me, this was perhaps the perfect match that they could have done to kick off Revolution. Jericho and Ricky Starks put on a great match, and one thing I loved about this match is that it didn't go too long. All the matches on this show were paced very, very nicely. This went about 13 and a half, 14 minutes. They did exactly what they needed to do, and we got ourselves a great opener. The crowd was into it. The crowd was hyped. They were hoping for a Ricky Starks victory, and that's exactly what they got. So the JS was banned from ringside. Starks was in early control with a nice tope con hero. Jericho was sent right into the barricade. Jericho then took over by sending Starks ribs first onto the ropes and then into the floor. Jericho remained in control. We had a nice triangle drop kick to Starks. Jericho targeted the ribs because Starks and his ribs were the focal point of the match because Jericho hit him with the bat. So Jericho and Starks were up top. After Starks delivered a tornado DDT to Jericho for a 2. Starks then pushed Jericho off the top. Jericho caught Starks with a knee to the gut coming off of the top rope and then delivered a Death Valley driver high on the neck and shoulders for a 2 count. Starks reversed the codebreaker into a powerbomb for a 2. Starks went for a spear. Jericho caught Starks mid-spear with a codebreaker, which was a very nice counter. Starks was able to kick out. Jericho then missed the diving axe handle. Starks went for the spear. He got the spear. Jericho kicked out. They traded strikes back and forth. We had a thrust kick by Starks. Single leg crab. Starks had Jericho deep in the single leg crab. Sammy started running out because he wanted to help Chris Jericho. Action Andretti comes out of nowhere and just bulldozes Sammy Guevara and just lays in the right hands. Action Andretti stopped him dead in his tracks. Aubrey Edwards wasn't looking because she was trying to get the other two on the outside in check. Jericho took the bat, hit Ricky Starks right in the ribs with Floyd the Bat. Jericho went for the Judas effect, and Starks, it's like he was doing a fucking dance move. Starks was like he was doing the fucking hustle, the hip and jive, and Starks with the arm up right at the last minute. He was like he was doing a fucking karate move. Blocks the Judas effect perfectly. He delivers shots to the back of the head of Jericho. Starks delivers the Rochambeau right on the money. 1, 2, 3, and Jericho is pinned clean as the crowd erupts for a Ricky Starks victory. Great match, perfect amount of time, did not go too long, and we got the right outcome. Ricky Starks goes 2-0 against Chris Jericho, exactly how it should be. Now, what happens to Jericho and Starks after the match? Jericho is a little He's a little bit more unpredictable. I can't really give you a straightforward answer as to where Chris Jericho goes after this match. Now, for me, if I was booking this, I would personally love to see them reignite the program with Daniel Garcia. We could see Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara kind of blame Daniel Garcia for all the losses that Jericho's been taking. Daniel Garcia could finally break away from Jericho, and maybe, since Daniel Garcia is a young up-and-coming talent, and Ring of Honor is kind of their feeding ground, I would personally love to see Daniel Garcia and Chris Jericho in an undercard match at Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor. And Daniel Garcia being a guy to get put over by Chris Jericho, and Daniel Garcia beating Chris Jericho in a nice undercard match to add to what is already shaping up to be a very good Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor pay-per-view. I think that would be a great moment for both Daniel Garcia, and it would really solidify Chris Jericho as the guy that helps the younger generation. I would love to see Chris Jericho versus Daniel Garcia, Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor. They build towards that, and we could get ourselves Chris Jericho putting over Daniel Garcia at Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor, and Daniel Garcia could potentially be fighting for the Ring of Honor World Championship towards the end of the year. Maybe we see that. Maybe we see Daniel Garcia potentially move up, and maybe he fights for an All-Atlantic Championship or the TNT Championship. There's a lot of different options that you could do with Chris Jericho, but that would probably be the most intriguing option for me. I would love to see a Daniel Garcia, Chris Jericho program. Now, what do you do with Ricky Starks? What do you do with Ricky Starks? Ricky Starks, realistically, the next step for Ricky Starks would be a championship. The next step for Ricky Starks would be a championship. However, if we're going to be quite honest here, MJF, he ain't losing that world championship. MJF is holding that championship 500 days minimum. He's holding that championship 500 days minimum. No chance in hell that MJF is going to be losing that world championship at any point in time this year. And Wardlow just won the TNT championship. Wardlow isn't losing the TNT championship. It would be a complete mistake for Wardlow to lose the TNT championship at any point in time before All Out. All Out, full gear. I would prefer he holds it to full gear. It would be foolish for Wardlow to lose the TNT championship. MJF is not losing the world championship. Wardlow should not be losing the TNT championship. What do you do? The All-Atlantic Championship is right there. As far as I'm concerned, the All-Atlantic Championship would be the absolute perfect, and I mean the absolute perfect spot for Ricky Starks to be slotted into. Orange Cassidy has done all he can with the All-Atlantic Championship. I love Orange Cassidy just as much as the next guy, and I think that everyone here is an advocate for Orange Cassidy. He's one of the best that AEW has right now. But in the end, Orange Cassidy, he has gone as far as he can go with the All-Atlantic Championship, and it's time to get some new blood into that title picture. Ricky Starks winning the All-Atlantic Championship and then going on a run with the All-Atlantic Championship would not only do Ricky Starks good, it would also do the All-Atlantic Championship good. And Ricky Starks has plenty of individuals to feud with. He could feud with Kip Sabian. He could feud with maybe Ari Daivari. You can give some of those guys opportunities. Maybe you can put someone like a Darby Allin in there. Maybe you could put someone like a Sammy Guevara in there, a Daniel Garcia. Ricky Starks holding the All-Atlantic Championship would do both him and the title good. And then when the time is right in the fall, you can revisit the Powerhouse Hobbs feud. Starks winning the All-Atlantic Championship is the best possible move. Now, that is something that I would definitely love to see down the line. Matter of fact, I would absolutely build a storyline between Ricky Starks and Orange Cassidy going into the next couple weeks, and then Starks could win the All-Atlantic Championship before the end of the month, and then you could build some solid matches and some solid feuds for Ricky Starks with the All-Atlantic Championship and the people that I just mentioned, and then the people that I haven't even mentioned. Maybe we see a Mark Briscoe mix it up with Ricky Starks for the All-Atlantic Championship. Maybe Jungle Boy slots himself into the All-Atlantic title picture. Maybe we see Christian Cage mix it up. Maybe Luchasaurus comes back. What about Pac? Pac and Ricky Starks? I'm sure a lot of people would love to see that. I'm sure everyone would love to see a Pac versus Ricky Starks match. Holy shit, that's a banger waiting to happen. We got plenty of options for Ricky Starks to feud with, but the All-Atlantic Championship is probably the best move for Ricky Starks. But otherwise, a great match to kick off the show. Absolutely the right outcome. And Ricky Starks, his stock has been elevated very nicely. Jungle Boy, Jack Perry versus Christian Cage. This was the final burial. The final burial between Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, and Christian Cage. I'm going to be honest here. I didn't think that they were going to end it here. I honestly did not think that they were going to end it here. I actually thought that we were going to continue forth with the no-holds-barred stipulation, and Christian Cage was actually going to get the victory here. I thought Christian Cage was going to get the victory here, and Christian Cage and Jungle Boy were going to continue feuding going into the spring, but apparently that was not the case. Jack Perry put the final nail in Christian Cage's coffin, literally. But this was a very good brawl of a match. This match went everywhere. It went into the crowd. It went by ringside. It went on the stage. It went on the dirt. And in the end here, we got ourselves the hometown boy and the homegrown talent in Jungle Boy Jack Perry getting the win here in a very, very good brawl of a match. So they went right after each other. The brawl spilled to ringside. Christian, he tried to hightail it away from ringside because he didn't want anything to do with Jungle Boy. Christian and Jack Perry brawled into the crowd. Perry then dumped the beer on Christian Cage's face. Back at ringside, they brawled onto the ramp. Christian tried to slow the pace down. The crowd was chanting, "Fuck you, Christian." And I laughed at that. Perry then came back with a tope suicida. Christian crashed into the barricade. Christian's head was then bounced off of the ring steps, and he was slightly bleeding right by his right eye. Right by his right eye, right by his nose, he was bleeding. Perry then wanted to stomp Christian's arm onto the steps, but Christian was able to reverse his way out of it. And then he dropped Perry back first on the stairs. Christian looked at Perry's leather belt, and he took Perry's leather belt off of him. He then started whipping Jungle Boy with the leather belt, which looked absolutely fucking brutal. They brawled up to the grave. Christian Cage then opened the casket, and there were chairs in the casket, conveniently planted there by Christian Cage. I mean, who else would have planted those fucking chairs there? So Christian went for a concerto. Perry reversed it. Perry was then back body dropped onto the dirt. Christian was shoved off the stage, and Perry, with a beautiful somersault plancha off the stage on the Christian Cage. Christian then came back with a low blow to Perry. Christian then put Perry in the casket. Perry fought out of it. Perry then had dirt thrown in his eyes. We had a kill switch on the dirt. Christian Cage then got the chairs. He went for the concerto, but Perry moved. Christian Cage then took the shovel and tried to choke Perry out with the shovel. Perry reversed it, choked Christian Cage out with the shovel, rolled Christian Cage onto his stomach, and then locked in a snare trap with the shovel in Christian Cage's mouth. And Christian Cage, he faded away. Jack Perry then looked up to the sky, put a chair underneath Christian Cage's mouth and head, and delivered a concerto, and the chair fucking bent. It looked absolutely fucking brutal. absolutely savage. The chair fucking bent. It bent. It had a fucking dent in it, and it dented inwards because of Christian Cage's skull. I thought Christian Cage was legitimately knocked the fuck out. Perry then took Christian Cage, put him in the casket, soaked it in, closed the casket, and the casket fell below into the dirt. And Christian Cage, he receives his final burial as Jungle Boy Jack Perry wins what was one very good brawl of a match. And it looks like this feud is finally over. Jack Perry, after a long storyline that they have told stemming back to late 2021, Jack Perry finally dispatches of Christian Cage, and Jack Perry finally exorcises the demon that was Christian Cage from his life. Very good brawl. Great ovation for Jungle Boy. A very well-paced match. It just went shy of 20 minutes. Didn't go too long. Very well-paced. It was the perfect match that they could have made to follow Chris Jericho and Ricky Starks. And Jungle Boy Jack Perry gets the win. Jungle Boy Jack Perry continues to be one of the MVPs for AEW. The guy is so fucking consistent. The guy is so consistent. The guy is so good at what he does. The guy is so underrated. The guy knows how to work a crowd. He knows how to wrestle. The guy has everything that you would want in a professional wrestler. The guy has it. Now, where do these two men go afterwards? Now, Christian, for me, Christian would be a perfect feud for Wardlow. I would absolutely love to see a Christian Cage versus Wardlow program going into Double or Nothing. That would be a great program for Wardlow, a very nice continuation of Wardlow's babyface run, and a very nice feud to continue the heel momentum for Christian Cage. If Christian Cage would just lay into Wardlow and his father and just degrade his father and all that shit, and that would really be some good television. Christian Cage, heel Christian Cage is great television. So I would love to see Christian Cage potentially in a program with Wardlow for the TNT Championship, and Christian Cage just go in there and fucking degrade Wardlow. Just fucking degrade him like a piece of shit. That would be fucking awesome. So that's where Christian Cage is going for me. That's the best route for Christian Cage. Now, Jungle Boy, I don't know. Jungle Boy is a little bit more unpredictable. I can't really answer the question, where does he go? See, this is one of the problems when you have a stacked fucking roster and you don't really have as many big spots for as many people to go into. That's the problem with an overly stacked roster like what Tony Khan has. I'd like to hope that Ring of Honor would help him in the long run. But what we have with Jungle Boy, it's a scenario where Jungle Boy is very versatile. He's very, very versatile, and you can honestly swing either way with Jungle Boy. You could put Jungle Boy in anything, and Jungle Boy will make it work. For me, I would take it very slow with Jungle Boy. There's no rush with Jungle Boy. No rush at all with Jungle Boy. You can take your time with Jungle Boy. He's 25. He's 26. He does not need to be in the main event spotlight anytime soon, although I think the best possible route for him going into the spring and summer, if you want to revisit Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, and MJF, you can absolutely do that. Now, how do you do that? I would not mind if they have Jungle Boy Jack Perry win the Casino Battle Royale at Double or Nothing for the second time. If you want to do a pre-show match, you could do the Casino Battle Royale on the pre-show. You can have Jungle Boy win the Casino Battle Royale, and Jungle Boy could fight MJF in the summer in between Double or Nothing and All Out before we inevitably get to All Out and we get to MJF versus whoever he's going to fight at All Out, which I will be talking about a little bit later. I will be talking about that a little bit later. But as far as Jack Perry goes, if you want to have Jack Perry win the Casino Battle Royale again and fight MJF for the world title in the summer, just as an interim program, I would not mind that at all, because the last time that I checked, those two put on a great match at Double or Nothing 2020 during the pandemic. That would be a great program for both Jungle Boy and for MJF, and it would really solidify both Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, and MJF as the legitimate future pieces of the company. If MJF is not a made man already, I don't know what to fucking tell you, but Jungle Boy, it would be a great showcase for him. And then where do you go after that? I would not mind, after the world title program with MJF, if they want to, they could build Jungle Boy Jack Perry up for a potential TNT Championship title reign. I would not mind that whatsoever. I think that if you want to do Jungle Boy Jack Perry versus Wardlow in the fall for the TNT Championship, Jungle Boy Jack Perry is a great hand and a great representation for Wardlow to lose the TNT title to after Wardlow has had a nice, solid run with it. So Jungle Boy Jack Perry, you want to keep him in the championship spotlight and you want to have him hang around the title scene, I would love to see Jungle Boy go after MJF, win the Casino Battle Royale, fight MJF in the summer, and then after he's done with MJF, he can get rebuilt back up and he can take the TNT Championship off of Wardlow, possibly at an all-out or full gear in 2023, in the fall. That would, for me, that would probably be one of the best routes that they could potentially go with Jungle Boy. But what we got here, it was a great match, a great brawl, and we got the right outcome here. You know what I find funny? Here's another thing I find funny. And again, these are just things that just constantly come to my mind. I find it fucking hilarious how there are so many fucking people and they bitch and they moan like fucking juvenile delinquents and they say, well, AEW doesn't know how to create a superstar. AEW, they can't create a superstar. They can't create real homegrown superstars. And that's all I fucking hear. That's all I fucking hear from these fucking idiotic delinquents and fucking retards all across social media. All I hear is AEW doesn't know how to create a superstar. That's all I hear. All I hear. Meanwhile, if you take a look at all the matches on tonight's show, outside of the Trios Championship title match, which I'm going to be talking about in a little bit, outside of the Trios Championship title match, every single match was won by an AEW homegrown talent or team. Jungle Boy, Ricky Starks, Jamie Hayter, Wardlow, Hangman Page, The Guns, MJF, all AEW breaded talent. All of them. All AEW homegrown talent. And every single one of them got victories at Revolution. If you're telling me that those individuals are not superstars, then you know what? You got some mental fucking issues and you need to have your head examined ASAP. Speaking of the AEW World Trios Championships, the Elite versus the House of Black. Elite versus the House of Black for the AEW World Trios Championships. Now, Tony Khan said on the media scrum last night that the reason why that there wasn't more build for the House of Black and the Elite is because of the fact that Kenny Omega had visa issues and Buddy Matthews, he was unavailable. He had other shit to do. Now, I get it. That I get. I understand that, but if that was the case, then you could have easily have held off. You could have easily have held off and you could have easily have booked this match at Double or Nothing. We did not need this match to be booked at Revolution. Now, in no way, shape, or form am I going to degrade this match at all, because in the end, did this match make the show better? You're damn fucking right it did. This match will probably go down as the best trios match of the entire year. It is a very, very, very difficult mountain to climb, and it is going to be a very, very tough mountain to top after everything that these individuals did in this match. This was one hell of a fucking trios match, and an excellent, and I mean an excellent, excellent, excellent showcase for all 6 men. And above all else, we got ourselves the right outcome. Tony Khan had one job to do with this match. One job to do. I said it once, and I said it almost every single time that I talked about it leading up until this match. We all knew it was going to be a banger, and it was exactly that. It was a fucking banger of a trios match, but Tony Khan had one job to do with this match, and in the end, he fucking delivered. The House of Black beat the Elite clean. The House of Black beat the Elite clean. The fans spoke. Tony Khan listened. And a lot of people, they can question his decisions, but this was absolutely the right decision and a well overdue championship victory for the House of Black. Well overdue. I don't have enough praise for this match. This match went nearly 20 minutes, and it was absolutely fantastic from start to finish. One of my favorite matches of the year thus far. Definitely going on my top 10 thus far. It's only March, but yet this match has made my top 10. So, Julia Hart came out dressed as Freddy Krueger, which I thought was great. The House of Black got a great entrance. So, Matthews and Omega, they had a great back and forth to start off the match. Malachi tagged in. We barely even got started. We were 2 minutes into the match. Malachi tagged in, and the crowd was chanting, "This is awesome." Crowd was hyped as all hell. Crowd was chanting, "This is awesome." So, Brody King came in after Matt Jackson tagged in, and all 6 men faced off. Things started to break down. Things really started to break down. We had a moonsault on Malachi, and then we had a facebuster on Buddy Matthews by Nick Jackson. Matt Jackson came in with a beautiful crossbody over the top rope, onto the floor, onto Black, and onto Matthews. Omega then with a tope con hero onto all 3 members of the House of Black. 450 by Nick on Brody, but he kicked out at 1. Brody King was presented like an absolute beast. Absolute beast. I'm telling you. So, after the 450, Brody King was taking out the Elite all on his own. Because like I said, he's a fucking beast. He's Brody King. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. He sent Omega into the barricade. We had a crossbody against the barricade. Omega was fucking squished. Nick Jackson was isolated. No one was there to tag out to. He finally got the tag to Omega. House of Black then was lit up by Omega. We had the Kataro Crusher on Malachi Black for a 2 count. We then had a triple team action. Super kicks to Black and Matthews. V-trigger on Brody King. He kicked out. We had a King Kong lariat turning Omega inside out. Tag to Matthews. Tag to Black. Nick Jackson was caught with a kick by Black. Knee bar on Omega. Matt Jackson with an elbow drop off the top to save it. So everyone started taking out everyone, one after the other. Black and Omega had a face-to-face, which, by the way, we need ourselves a Malachi Black, Kenny Omega singles match, ASAP. Brody King, he was out for the time being. So was Buddy Matthews. And Malachi Black and Omega, they traded kicks and strikes and elbows and knees. Both men are down. Brody King choked out Nick Jackson as if he was hanging him on a fucking noose. Brody King got super kicked by Matt Jackson. We had a V-trigger by Omega onto King. King was taken out. Snap Dragon Suplex. Omega delivered it. Second one, Julia Hart got involved. Omega accidentally V-triggered Julia Hart. Julia Hart took the bullet. Julia Hart was out for the time being. Nick Jackson ended up saving the match after Malachi Black delivered the spinning heel kick, which was the Sin Eater, that he calls it. Sin Eater, Nick Jackson saved it. Dante's Inferno by the House of Black. I thought they were going to do it here. Nick Jackson saved it again. Matt Jackson delivered a double axe handle, or he at least tried to deliver a double axe handle. Matt Jackson was thrown out of the ring. Brody King with a tope suicida onto the Bucks. He sent Matt Jackson into the barricade. All of a sudden, the House of Black surrounded Omega. The Bucks came in to save Omega. Matt Jackson and Nick Jackson delivered the BTE trigger to Black. Matthews saved the match. Then Matthews was hit with a step-up Gamengiri by Nick Jackson, I believe it was. Omega was out. So the Bucks went for the Meltzer driver on Malachi Black. Nick Jackson went for the flip, and as he was coming round after the flip, Buddy Matthews delivered a knee right to the face, in which I swear to God, I legitimately thought Nick Jackson was knocked out cold. I legitimately thought Nick Jackson may have broken his nose, may have shattered his orbital bone, may have fucking cracked his skull. An absolutely brutal fucking knee. Malachi Black delivered the Sin Eater to Matt Jackson. Dante's Inferno on the button, and it was an emphatic fucking Dante's Inferno. 1, 2, 3. Malachi Black pins Matt Jackson, and we have ourselves new AEW World Trios Champions in what was an absolutely fantastic trios match between these two. A trios match that absolutely delivered tenfold, a trios match that absolutely lived up to the hype, and a trios match that will go down as one of the best matches of the year thus far in only 2.5 months. Excellent. Absolutely excellent. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic from start to finish. I do not have enough praise for what these 6 men did, and we got the right outcome. Tony Khan delivered like he should, and my God, does it feel good to see the House of Black with championship gold after everything that they went through, not getting enough television time because there wasn't enough TV time to showcase them, whether it be not receiving the proper amount of booking, whether it be losing, whether it be because they needed to take time away and they needed to focus on their mental health. They went through mental health struggles and personal struggles outside of the ring to return late last year, come back, go undefeated, win the Trios Championships, and not only win the Trios Championships, but beat the Elite, who are 3 of the biggest stars, not only in AEW, but in the professional wrestling business, period. To beat the Elite like they did, that right there is fucking validation. And I could not be happier for the House of Black. The House of Black, they got plenty of people to feud with. AR Fox and Top Flight. You could do Death Triangle again. Maybe we see Claudio lose the Ring of Honor World Championship to Eddie Kingston. Maybe Claudio gets called up to Dynamite full time, and we get the Blackpool Combat Club versus the House of Black. I would love to see that. We could see the Best Friends in Orange Cassidy. Maybe Hangman Page. After the summer, maybe Hangman Page rejoins with the Dark Order. Maybe we see Hangman Page, Alex Reynolds, and John Silver versus the House of Black for the Trios Championships. That would be great. Maybe after the Embassy lose the Ring of Honor World 6-Man Tag Team Championships, maybe we see the Embassy get called up to Ring of Honor or AEW full-time, and they leave Ring of Honor, and the Embassy fights the House of Black. We got a lot of challengers for the House of Black. House of Black are perhaps the best representation for the Trios Championships, and this was absolutely the right outcome. I do not advocate for transitional champions. Matter of fact, if you know me, transitional champions, I say it all the time, transitional champions need to die. There should be no such thing as transitional champions, but at the end of the day, it's the Elite. It's the Elite. The Elite are the Elite, and the Elite are not harmed at all. This doesn't hurt the Elite whatsoever. And on top of that, this was probably always the plan. Tony Khan probably always had the plan for the Elite to hold the Trios Championships for 6 months coming out of All Out, and we were inevitably going to get the House of Black beating the Elite at Revolution. But unfortunately, with the backstage brawl, the Elite had to be suspended. Death Triangle got the Trios Championships. Death Triangle probably were never even supposed to be the Trios Champions, but they were. The Elite won them back, and the Elite, they dropped them to the team that they were probably always supposed to drop them to. So in the end, no one should be complaining about this decision. No one should be complaining about this decision. This was absolutely the correct decision, absolutely the decision that needed to happen, absolutely the correct outcome. And in the end, we got ourselves one hell of a match, one hell of a brawl, one hell of a trios matchup, and we got ourselves new trios champions. Exactly what needed to happen. The House of Black is your new trios champions, and all is right with the world. Saraya, Ruby Soho, and Jamie Hayter for the AEW Women's World Championship. I thought that these three women were really put in a bad spot, but they ended up proving us all wrong. They proved me wrong. They proved you wrong. This was a very, very good women's triple threat match for what it was. It was all action. It was fast-paced. It was no bullshit. It was chaotic. We got a lot of good material. These three women matched up very, very well together. And all three of these women, they fucking worked their asses off. So much so, I wish it could have gone another 5 minutes. I wish it could have gone another 5 minutes. It went about 10, 11 minutes. I would have not minded if it would have gone another 5 minutes. I thought that what these women did was very, very good. People, you know what? Again, another thing. I'm sorry to keep on stopping like this, but once again, I need to point out just how fucking stupid the IWC really is. People are going on and on about how Saraya has been a flop in AEW. Flop? The fuck are you watching? What exactly are you expecting from Saraya in AEW? Are you expecting her to do what fucking Io Shirai is doing? If anything, Saraya is actually being booked better than what Io Shirai is on WWE television. Saraya is not there to put on 5-star classics. She is there to help enhance the division. And ever since Saraya came in, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but the quality of women's wrestling matches that we've been getting has been very, very good. We've gotten some great women's wrestling matches over the course of the last several months. She put on a very good match with Britt Baker for what it was, a very solid match. They were put in a tough spot. They put on a very solid match at Full Gear. We had Toni Storm and Jamie Hayter. They put on one of the best women's matches of 2022. We had Toni Storm and Hikaru Shida mix it up. We've seen Britt Baker and Toni Storm mix it up. Toni Storm and Serena Deeb. We've seen Riho mix it up with Toni Storm. Riho is very good at what she does. And we got ourselves a very good women's triple threat match here. All three of these women worked their asses off here. The only criticism that I have is that it could have gone a little bit longer. I would have liked it to go another 5 more minutes, but regardless, it was a fast-paced, action-packed triple threat match. It did exactly what it needed to do. We got the right outcome. The right woman was pinned, and the right angle, the right scenario happened after the match. So I don't understand why exactly you're complaining. No one should be complaining about what we saw here. All three women did excellent here. Was it the best? No, but it was very good. And considering that they had a lot to live up to following what we saw with the trios match and Jericho and Starks and Jungle Boy and Christian Cage, considering they had to follow all of that, they did excellent. They did excellent. So Saraya sent Hayter into the steps and then over the barricade. Ruby with a drop kick off the apron to Saraya. So the match spilled into the crowd. Ruby Soho with a crossbody off the barricade onto the other two competitors into the crowd. So the fans got a treat. They were brawling in the crowd. Back at ringside, Ruby Soho was dropped shin first onto the barricade. She bounced. Saraya took over. Both her and Jamie were on the apron, and Jamie delivered a side effect to Saraya on the apron, which looked nasty. Ruby Soho then came in with a crossbody on Hayter and then an STO for a 2. Hayter was brawling with Saraya. With Soho, Soho was on Hayter's back, and she had Hayter in a sleeper hold. Hayter was holding Soho on her back while she was punching Saraya into the corner. Hayter then with a double suplex to Saraya and Ruby Soho. Cover on Saraya for a 2. Cover on Soho for a 2. Saraya then delivered the nightcap on Jamie Hayter. That got, or almost got, a 2 count because Ruby Soho broke it up and delivered a Saito suplex on Saraya. And Saraya was in there. She was taking bumps. We had a hate breaker on Soho, and all 3 women were down. Crowd was appreciating it. Ruby Soho with a beautiful spike Rana. I don't think I've seen this a lot from Ruby Soho, but Ruby Soho delivered a spike Rana to Jamie Hayter, which looked very nice. That got a 2 count. Hayter and Soho were then up top. Saraya then came in, and Saraya came in and delivered a power bomb to Hayter, while Hayter delivered a superplex to Ruby Soho. We got a big Tower of Doom superplex. Saraya then went for Ruby. She locked in her submission move, which is the PTO. Hayter came in with a lariat on Saraya to break her up. Toni Storm then got taken out by Hayter. We had the Cradle DDT. Baker saved it. We then had Destination Unknown by Soho on Jamie Hayter, Destination Unknown on Saraya. Saraya hit Hayter with the Cradle DDT, and then Ruby hit the Destination Unknown on Saraya, but Jamie Hayter saved it. Jamie Hayter then with the Haterade on Saraya. Saraya was taken out, and we had some back and forth pinfalls between Ruby Soho and Jamie Hayter just barely got the crucifix pin on Ruby Soho with her shoulders down to retain in what was a very fast-paced, very action-packed, very good triple threat match for what it was, and we got ourselves the right outcome. We got ourselves the right person taking the pin, and then afterwards we got ourselves a big brawl, and the freelancers then went for the spray paint. Ruby Soho then sent Toni Storm and Saraya out of the ring and said, no, this is our house, bitches. So she got in their faces. She held up Jamie Hayter's hand, and then out of nowhere, Ruby Soho delivers the no future to Jamie Hayter, and we got a very nice crowd reaction. The crowd actually popped for it. She delivered the Destination Unknown on Britt Baker, and Ruby Soho then took the spray paint and spray painted the L on Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter, and we got ourselves a solid trio with the freelancers. It is Ruby Soho, Toni Storm, and Saraya, and we are itching closer and closer to what is the women's blood and guts match. And I did not have a single issue with what we saw here between any of these 3 women. These 3 women worked very, very well together. It did what it needed to do. These 3 women went in there. They were put in a very tough spot. A very, very tough spot, but they did excellent for what they were given. And Ruby Soho is now aligned with the freelancers. Now comes the interesting part. Who's going to join Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker? If anything, Sheeta has not been seen in a while. So I'm not sure where Sheeta is, but if Sheeta is coming back anytime soon, I would love to see Hikaru Shida in the mix with the AEW originals. And then, if I'm not mistaken, I do believe Thunder Rosa is due back. I do believe Thunder Rosa is indeed due back for the month of March, if I'm not mistaken. And Thunder Rosa, Shida, Baker, Hayter, that's 4. Maybe if you want, you can add a Willow Nightingale. And then you got Ruby Soho, You got Saraya. You got Toni Storm. You could bring up Athena. Athena's an ex-WWE woman. You bring up Athena, and then you can bring in Mercedes Moné. Those are your 5. And then you got the 5 AEW originals like I just named, and that is your blood and guts. That is your blood and guts match. That is a picture-perfect representation for a blood and guts match with the women, and I do believe that we will indeed see the blood and guts match take place sometime after Double or Nothing. The interesting thing here is, where does Jamie Hayter fit in terms of the women's championship? Where is Jamie Hayter going to be going in terms of the women's championship? Who is she going to be defending the championship against? Who is she going to be defending the championship against? I don't know. It is definitely going to be an interesting scenario to keep our eyes on. But with Riho doing what she's doing, I do believe that we're going to see Riho versus Jamie Hayter sometime after the pay-per-view. We could see it as soon as Wednesday. Depends if they want to do it on Wednesday, or they could wait a couple weeks. Maybe Riho, she faces Jamie Hayter. Maybe she loses to Jamie Hayter, but then joins Jamie Hayter afterwards because, again, she is aligned with the AEW originals, and she is an AEW original herself. So you got Hayter, you got Baker, you got Riho, you got Shida, and then you got Thunder Rosa. So if it's not Willow Nightingale, then it's probably going to be Riho. That's a formidable quintet. And then you got on the other side, you got Saraya, Storm, Athena, Ruby Soho, and Mercedes. That's a very nice blood and guts matchup, if I do say so myself. So I could absolutely see Riho. She could lose to Jamie Hayter, but ultimately gain Hayter's respect. And in the end, we could absolutely see Riho join the AEW originals. But this was exactly what needed to happen. The right woman walked out victorious. The right individual took the pin, and we got the heel turn that we needed. And we are continuing to build towards that blood and guts match. So, good on them. Good on the women. The women did very good. Jon Moxley and Hangman Adam Page, Texas Death Match. If this was not followed by the Iron Man match with MJF and Bryan Danielson, this would have been the best match of the night. If this was not followed by that Iron Man match that we saw, this would have absolutely been the best match of the night. This was absolutely incredible. Incredible if I've ever fucking seen one. The brutality, the intensity, the just utter animosity, and the hatred that these guys had for each other. It just jumped off the screen. It just jumped off the screen at you. You could tell that these guys just wanted to go in there and fucking murder each other. It's great. Absolutely fantastic. And once again, these two men were the only two main stars. This was the match that we've been waiting 3 years to see, and we got a 4-match feud, and these guys did not disappoint in any of their matches. None of these guys disappointed in any of their matches, and we got ourselves one incredible fucking Texas Death Match, one match that will go down as one of the best matches of the year, and in the end, the Hangman, the Cowboy gets the win, and the Cowboy will ride into the sunset with a victory under his belt. So good on Adam Page and good on Jon Moxley. Page, he attacked Moxley right out of the gate. They wasted no time at all. Right out of the gate. We had barbed wire wrapped around Jon Moxley's head right out of the gate. Right out of the gate. Absolutely brutal. There was absolutely no time wasted here. No time wasted whatsoever. So after that, we had Moxley getting out a fork. Of course he did. Of course he brought out a fucking fork. Moxley brought out a fork, and Moxley locked Adam Page in a triangle. He locked him in a triangle hold and stabbed. He fucking stabbed him over and over again, puncturing him, blood squirting out of his fucking forehead. Absolutely fucking unbelievable. So he was bleeding like a stuck pig, was Adam Page. Moxley then brought out some chairs and then one barbed wire wrapped steel chair. Of course he did. Page was sent headfirst into the barbed wire chair. Fucking brutal. Page was then placed stomach first on the barbed wire. Single leg crab. Shot to the back with the barbed wire chair. Moxley tied the chairs together in barbed wire, and Adam Page powerbombed Moxley onto the barbed wire chairs. Page then, with an Orihara moonsault with barbed wire wrapped around his torso like a fucking maniac. So Page took the barbed wire and he wasted too much time. He took a barbed wire pad. He wasted too much time. Moxley caught him with a cutter. Page just got back to his feet. Moxley then brought out bricks. Yes, you heard me correctly. Jon Moxley fucking brought out a pair of bricks and a chain. He then sandwiched Page's hand in between the bricks and stomped it. No fucks given. And then he delivered a pile driver to fucking Adam Page on the chair, on the barbed wire steel chair. Moxley then, with a regal stretch with the chain, Page then bit Moxley's thumb to get out of it. He bit Moxley's thumb. He then delivered a backdrop driver and a lariat by Page, rolling forearm with the barbed wire, and then he delivered a fall-away slam on the barbed wire chair, plancha over the top. Moxley fell back first onto the barbed wire pad. Back in the ring, Hangman Page, like a fucking maniac, trying to fucking murder Jon Moxley, a fucking deadeye. He delivered a deadeye onto the barbed wire chair, and Jon Moxley's forehead fucking stuck in the barbed wire. He's stuck in the barbed wire. Unbelievable. And yet Moxley still got up. The motherfucker got up. So Moxley then fell onto a chair. It was set up in the ring. Moxley fell onto a chair. Adam Page was up on top. Moxley shoved Page off of the top rope. Page went splat through another barbed wire pad. Moxley was shocked. Page just barely beat the count. Moxley with the big King Kong lariat. Page got up. He wanted more. They slapped each other back and forth. A big lariat by Page. Death Rider by Moxley. Moxley then took a brick and delivered a curb stomp onto the brick. A fucking curb stomp onto the brick, which looked fucking unbelievable. Page got up again. Page would not stay down. Moxley with a rear naked choke. Page passed out. Moxley thought he had it won. Page, the crazy ass fucking cowboy, got up again. Page got up again. Page with another lariat. Page took a brick. Bam, right to the head with the brick. Right to the head with the fucking brick. Rear naked choke with the chain. Low blow by Moxley. Page with a buckshot lariat. The chain was wrapped around Moxley's head. Moxley, after the buckshot lariat, Hangman Page clotheslined Moxley over the top, and he used the chain as a noose. Page used the chain as a noose and hung Jon Moxley over the rope, and Jon Moxley had to tap out. I don't think we've ever seen that. I think this is the first time we have ever seen that. Jon Moxley, for the very first time ever, taps out in an AEW ring, and Adam Page wins an absolutely incredible war of a match. And if it wasn't for the Iron Man match, this would have been your match of the night. And when you look at Revolution, I'm going to point this out. When you look at Revolution, Revolution will have produced numbers 1 and 2. 1 and 2 for best matches of the year thus far. For me, the top 3 matches of the year, the Iron Man match, the Texas Death Match, and Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn from Elimination Chamber. Those 3 matches, absolutely unbelievable. Fantastic. Incredible. And above all else, Hangman Page winning was the right outcome. And why? And why? It's quite simple. It's quite simple. I think that I have educated you guys enough to know that there is a certain way for AEW to go. There is a certain way for AEW to go going into Double or Nothing. I think I've educated you guys very well to a point where you know that AEW has a matchup waiting for them in the wings. Here, they have a matchup waiting for them in the wings at Double or Nothing with Hangman Page and MJF. Hangman Page and MJF. Not only is this a symbolic match, but it's a very poetic match because Hangman Page and MJF, they were the final 2 participants in the Casino Battle Royale at Double or Nothing 2019 4 years ago. And it was Page that won, and he got the challenge for the first AEW World Championship. He got the challenge for the first AEW World Championship, did Adam Page. Now, with Adam Page winning here against Jon Moxley, Adam Page defeating and dispatching of Jon Moxley, MJF dispatching of Bryan Danielson, this is going to paint the picture for a long-term story and a match that is 4 years in the making. We have not had a proper Hangman Page versus MJF feud in ever. This is the perfect time to do it with Hangman Page coming off one of the biggest feuds and one of the biggest wins of his career against Jon Moxley. And now with MJF coming out of the biggest win of his career against Bryan Danielson, this is the picture perfect opportunity to take advantage of it and tell the story from 4 years ago to now with Hangman Adam Page and MJF main eventing Double or Nothing 2023 for the AEW World Championship. It's going to be one hell of a contest if they decide to go forth with it. I'm telling you right now, this is absolutely the best route to go. This is the best route to go. This is the best route that you will have for Double or Nothing. And when we get to MJF, we're going to talk about him a little bit later. But this was an incredible match. Hangman Page, easily one of the biggest victories of his career, easily one of the best matches of his career. And Hangman Adam Page, he is undoubtedly the perfect candidate for a match against MJF at Double or Nothing. And to tell that story stemming from 4 years ago, it's going to be a wonderful thing to see. It will be a wonderful thing to see. Wardlow and Samoa Joe. This was for the TNT Championship. Wardlow and Samoa Joe. This went about 10 and a half, 11 minutes. This was not a bad match. I don't want anyone to misconstrue anything. This was not a bad match whatsoever. This was a very good match. The problem is, it was just put in a very, very, very shitty spot. It doesn't matter what was placed after that Texas Death Match. If we got what we were going to get with that Texas Death Match, whoever followed it, it was ultimately going to be a death spot. There was no way that anyone could have followed that match. It's legitimately similar to what happened at Revolution 2020 with the Bucks versus Hangman and Omega at Revolution 2020 and how good that tag team match was. And then they had to follow with Chris Statlander and Nyla Rose. They had to follow with Chris Statlander and Nyla Rose. There was no way that they were going to follow what those four men did in that tag team match. Same thing here. No matter how good Samoa Joe is, no matter how good Wardlow is, and they're very good, Joe is phenomenal. Joe is unbelievable. This is the Samoa Joe that we should have gotten years ago in WWE. And then you got Wardlow. Wardlow is great at what he does. Wardlow, easily a guy that should be in top contention to take the world title off the MJF when the time is right. But there was no way that they were going to live up to what it should have been after the Texas Death Match. Still, it was a solid match. But in the end, it was probably the weakest match of the night. Probably the weakest match of the night. Not to say that it was bad. So Wardlow went right after Joe. Joe came in with an elbow suicida. So they tried. Wardlow then came back with a beautiful whisper in the wind. It always impresses me when Wardlow does the whisper in the wind. Wardlow with the ground and pound. Nice suplex. Joe took over. He tried to work over Wardlow's knee. Wardlow then with a spine buster. And then he delivered a beautiful F5 on Samoa Joe. Wardlow then went up to the top. He went for the Swanton Bomb. It connected on the money. Wardlow has one of the best looking Swanton Bombs I think I've seen. 1, 2, Wardlow only got a 2 count. Joe locked in the coquina clutch. Wardlow reached for the ropes. He just got his foot on the ropes, did Wardlow. Joe tried for the mounted punches. Wardlow with a power bomb. Joe got up and he delivered a big lariat. Joe went for a power bomb of his own. He wanted to do the power bomb symphony on Wardlow. Wardlow reversed out of it, delivered a big headbutt, and then locked in a very nice looking coquina clutch on Samoa Joe, did Wardlow. And then the referee did 1 arm drop, 2 arm drop, 3 arm drops, and Samoa Joe passes out. Wardlow regains the TNT Championship. Once again, this was the right outcome, and I appreciate the fact that both men were made to look strong, and Joe was protected. Joe was not pinned, and he did not tap out. Joe was protected. So that I appreciate. But in the end, it was solid. But there was absolutely no way that they were going to be able to follow Page and Moxley. They tried. It was solid, but it wasn't enough. Now, with Wardlow as the TNT champion, that man should not be losing the TNT championship until the fall. You put the title on Wardlow. Now you must have Wardlow go out there and run with the championship. Run with it for as long as you can possibly run him with it. Go into All Out, go into Full Gear. That right there would be the ideal place. Wardlow should not be losing that championship until the fall. He should hold it all throughout the spring and all throughout the summer. I do not want to hear about Wardlow losing that title at all until the fall. You got plenty of challengers for him. You got Darby Allin. You got Sammy Guevara. You got Daniel Garcia. You can throw in a Powerhouse Hobbs. Powerhouse Hobbs is a good start. Hobbs is not winning, but it should be a decent match. You got plenty of individuals. If Claudio loses, you could do Claudio and Wardlow. That would be a very nice match. You got Pac. You got Penta. You got Phoenix. You got plenty of challengers. Luchasaurus. Maybe Luchasaurus comes back. And Luchasaurus inevitably fights Wardlow for the TNT title. That would be a great match. Maybe Miro comes back. I'm not sure where Miro is. Maybe Miro comes back and he fights Wardlow for the TNT title. There's plenty of challengers for Wardlow. There should be no excuse why Wardlow loses that title at any point in time before All Out. I do not want to hear about Wardlow losing that title until All Out. No more, no less. I don't want to fucking hear it at all. Don't want to hear it. Now, where does Joe go? Joe, I do believe that he's going to be on Ring of Honor for a while. And to be quite honest with you, I don't really feel as though AEW needs Samoa Joe. AEW, listen, Joe's great for television, and Joe is a phenomenal asset in every sense of the word. But in the end, does Samoa Joe really need to be on AEW television? I don't feel like he needs to be there. There's plenty of individuals on the AEW roster that would benefit from a showcase. Joe, after everything that he's done, Joe, I think he's really had plenty of opportunities to showcase that, all right, he's done everything to make sure that his AEW run and his run under Tony Khan is solid. I think Joe's going to stay on Ring of Honor for a little bit. And I do believe that at Supercard of Honor, he's going to be dropping the Ring of Honor World Television Championship to Mark Briscoe. And that would probably be the best move for him. Where does he go after that? I honestly do believe that Samoa Joe is going to be the Ring of Honor World Champion again. Whoever comes out of Supercard of Honor with the World Championship, whether it's Eddie Kingston or whether it's Claudio Castagnoli, whoever comes out of that match with the Ring of Honor World Championship, I truthfully believe that we will see Samoa Joe versus whoever the champion is, whether it be Claudio or whether it be Eddie Kingston. And I do believe that in July, at Death Before Dishonor, we will see a new Ring of Honor World Champion, and his name is going to be Samoa Joe. That is probably the best role that Samoa Joe could be in. He doesn't need to be on AEW television. He's done all he can with the World Television title. Put him in the world title scene at Death Before Dishonor and have him win it. Solid match. A solid match. It was. It was a solid match, but in the end, it just wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. They tried. They really did. But I don't think that anyone could have lived up to what that Texas Death Match was. No one. Absolutely no one. The Guns. The Guns. Danhausen and Orange Cassidy. Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. The Acclaimed. Fatal 4-way match for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. This match was probably the weakest match going into the show. This was probably the weakest match going into the show, and I think that everyone's excitement level was at an all-time low when it came to this match. But in the end, I think we can all relax and we can all rest easily going into Dynamite this Wednesday, knowing that this match was not an embarrassment. This match was not an embarrassment. It wasn't anything groundbreaking. It wasn't anything that I'm going to go out of my way to rewatch again. It really wasn't anything that I'm going to say, oh my God, this was absolutely insane. You got to go out of your way to watch this. Oh my God, this was such a classic. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. But was it bad? No. And then in the end, I think that we can all just sit down and live with the fact that it was not bad. It was not an embarrassment. It was a fairly fun little 13-minute match, and we got ourselves the right outcome with the right man taking the pin. Pretty much it. There's really nothing more to say. Really nothing more to say. It's not something that I'm going to go back and rewatch, but you know what? It was a decent match. It was a decent, fun little match that ultimately was overshadowed by what was to follow. So, Orange Cassidy, he back body dropped multiple people with his hands in his pockets. We had a Hurricane Rana by Danhausen. The Guns came in. The crowd just fucking rained down boos on the Guns. Cassidy then came in with a DDT on Colton. Tope Suicida on Austin. Tagged to Jay Lethal. Lethal with the lethal combination on Cassidy. Stun Dog Millionaire. Tagged to Caster and Bowens. We had the Scissor Me Timbers on Sanjay Dutt. Sanjay Dutt was dressed like an Indian princess. Not a prince, a princess. I don't know what the fuck he was wearing. But Sanjay Dutt caught the Scissor Me Timbers. The Guns then took it to the Acclaim. Jeff Jarrett then took over, tagged in Lethal. They wore down Bowens. The Guns and Jeff Jarrett did a 4-way scissor session, mocking the Acclaimed. Tagged to Caster. He took out everyone with a super kick to Jarrett. Lariat to Lethal. Angle slam on Lethal. Jarrett saved the match. Caster was sent to the floor. The Guns then broke the truce. They broke the truce that they had with Triple J, Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. Sanjay then took out the Guns. Danhausen then got in Sanjay Dutt's face. Danhausen slapped, or snapped rather. He snapped Sanjay Dutt's pencil. Orange Cassidy with the orange punch on Sanjay, and then he got a punch right in the dick. Danhausen punched Sanjay Dutt right in the cock. So Sanjay Dutt was taken out. And then all of a sudden, they did an orange punch to Singh, a dick punch to Singh, and then Daddy Ass with a famouser on Sanjay Dutt. Daddy Ass, Billy Gunn, then caught a low blow by his own sons. The Acclaimed then went after the Guns. Nice double team action. The Arrival and the mic drop, but Colton Gunn ended up saving the match. Bowens was sent to the floor. Bowens was then sent into the crowd. And we had Jeff Jarrett. He was going to hit Max Caster with the guitar, but Caster took the guitar out of his hand. Caster threatened to hit Jeff Jarrett with the guitar before Aubrey took it away. We had the Golden Globe right to the head. Jeff Jarrett hit the stroke. Caster kicked out. I actually thought that we were going to see Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal win the tag team titles. Good fucking Lord, that would have been disastrous. Aubrey then got in Jeff Jarrett's face. He pushed him. Colton Gunn tagged, and then he tagged in Austin. Danhausen tagged in. Danhausen then with a German suplex on Austin Gunn. Orange punch by Danhausen was reversed, and the Gun Club hit a very nice looking double team move, which was a flapjack into a flatliner. Very nicely done by the Guns, and the Guns end up retaining the AEW World Tag Team Championships in what was a match that could have been a lot worse than it was, but it ended up turning out to be a fairly fun match that was not an embarrassment, and the Guns got the win in a straight-up, clean fashion, and the Guns retain the titles like they should. And once again, I must give out my praise to the Guns. They have carried themselves brilliantly. They come off like dickheads, and they're a lot better in the ring than they were. I think that they've come a very long way, and I'm loving what the Guns are doing. I very much love what the Guns are doing. And this was absolutely the right outcome right here, with the Guns retaining with the pin on Danhausen. So the Guns were then interviewed by Renee Paquette. They were interviewed, and Austin Gunn was ranting about how they're the best, this and that. All of a sudden, that fabled music hits, and Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood emerge. FTR is indeed back. A thunderous pop, an absolute thunderous pop for FTR. They took it to the Guns and delivered a pile driver on Colton, and delivered the big rig, which was called the Shatter Machine. FTR indeed has the rights to the name Shatter Machine. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Shatter Machine on Austin. Austin sold the ever-living shit out of it, and FTR then held up the tag team titles, and it looks like we got ourselves our tag team title match for Double or Nothing 2023. Exactly what needed to be done. I could not be happier that FTR is back, and it tells a picture-perfect story. The Guns were mocking FTR for months. The Guns said FTR's legacy is dying, and they wanted to be the ones to kill it. And they beat FTR. They sent FTR on vacation. And after months of being away, the Guns, they beat the Acclaim. They become the AEW World Tag Team Champions. They retain the titles here. And now FTR reemerge. And we got ourselves the seeds planted for the tag team title match to take place at AEW Double or Nothing 2023 in Las Vegas. And it is going to be a very, very good match between the two. I think that these two teams are going to really bring it. And I don't see the Guns losing the titles at any point in time until Double or Nothing to FTR. They don't need to. They don't need to. The best route for me, if I'm booking this, I am doing one last match between the Guns and the Acclaimed for the AEW World Tag Team titles on Dynamite, and that is when I'm doing the Daddy Ass heel turn. Daddy Ass joins with the Guns to further enhance them, and then we will get FTR as even bigger baby faces going into the Double or Nothing pay-per-view. FTR, at the end of all this, FTR will be your new AEW World Tag Team Champions. They got a well-deserved rest. They got a well-deserved time off, because after everything that they did, after they proved that they are legitimately the best tag team in the world, and 2022 was their year. 2022 was their year. 2023 is going to be their year again, because they will indeed be the AEW World Tag Team Champions again. And I could not be happier for FTR. FTR is back. Crowd exploded. And the Guns, you got until May 28th. You got until Sunday, May 28th. At Double or Nothing, your tag team title reign is coming to an end. Bryan Danielson, and Maxwell Jacob Friedman for the AEW World Championship in a 60-minute Iron Man match. It's very, very hard for me to sit here and tell you that I'm going to do this justice. I don't think I even have enough human words in my vocabulary to describe to you what we saw at Revolution. Absolutely incredible. A spectacle of a match to behold. It was beautifully paced, and everything about this match was picture fucking perfect. It was unbelievable. If MJF was not a made man already, this match proved to you that he is indeed a made fucking man. Made man. No doubt about it. The guy is absolutely unbelievable at what he does. The guy is a generational talent. He's exactly what he says he is. He always says on and on how he's a generational talent. The guy is exactly what the fuck he says he is. He is a generational talent, and it's about time that people really start putting some more respect on that man's name. That man is an absolute fucking stud in every sense of the word. And that man, I am telling you right now, that man is going to be an absolute fucking legend when all is said and done. That man is going to be a bona fide Hall of Famer no matter where you put him. That man is going to be an absolute fucking inspiration to everyone that wants to be a heel. The guy's amazing. And Bryan Danielson, if you had any doubt that Bryan Danielson will go down as one of the greatest of all time, I mean, I don't know what to fucking tell you. And then once again, I gotta say it again, because again, people are just so fucking pussified. People are legitimately upset with MJF and what he did with splashing an alcoholic beverage, which was barely even what? Quarter of the way full? Minorly splashed a kid with an alcoholic beverage in the face. Who gives a shit? If people can't understand that MJF is doing his job, and people can't understand, and they can't understand that it's all part of the show, and it's nothing to be overly upset about, and it's all part of a gimmick. It's a part of a gimmick. The guy didn't even lay a hand on the kid. He just splashed him with water. If you can't understand that that's part of the gimmick, and you're going to make it a bigger deal than it already is, then you know what? You're the fucking problem with wrestling. You're the fucking problem with the community, with social media, society, and the world as a whole. I don't have any respect for you. I got none. I got absolutely no respect for you. You guys really need to stop being so fucking thin-skinned. I swear, you have skin as thin as fucking paper. Skin as thin as fucking paper. It is quite pathetic. It is quite pathetic. And it honestly makes me ashamed to even share the same air as some of these people. Really. But we get MJF and Bryan Danielson in what was an absolute classic. An absolute classic. It will go down as one of the greatest, if not the greatest Iron Man match of all time. Some people were even saying that it was better than Brett and Shawn Michaels. You know what? If you were to look at me and tell me that, I would not look at you in a weird way whatsoever. I wouldn't. Absolutely fucking unbelievable. Unbelievable. And by this time, it was around 10:37. It was around 10:37. Exactly the perfect amount of pace we need. We need all of these shows to be paced exactly how Revolution was. It must be the blueprint. It must be the blueprint for any and all AEW shows going into the future. I do not want to hear any fucking peeps out of anybody. Absolutely incredible match. So they were trading strikes back and forth, and they actually had figures in black masquerade masks. They had figures in these black masquerade masks playing MJF's theme song on a cello and violins, and MJF came out with his devil mask and a glorious white robe, and that right there is just a tease to what I have a feeling we will see going into Double or Nothing, or at least coming out of Double or Nothing, which we will talk about in a little bit. So MJF kept on ducking out of the way and trying to weasel his way around Bryan Danielson, and then he tossed fucking water into a kid's face, which was great. And then he goes, is that going to cost me a star, Dave? Brilliant. Fantastic. Do I love MJF? Bryan then came in with some stiff kicks. MJF then worked over the shoulder. He took another drink midway through the match, flipped off a fan. We had a wrecking ball drop kick by Bryan Danielson, and then a tope suicida, but MJF then turned it around and sent Bryan's shoulder first into the barricade. MJF with a hammerlock DDT, Bryan kicked out. MJF and Bryan were on the top buckle. Bryan with a sunset flip powerbomb to MJF. Running drop kicks in the corner. 10 punches and a Hurricane Rana for a 2. MJF then with a powerbomb on the knee to Bryan. That got a 2. Super kick to Bryan by MJF. Shawn Michaels pose. So it was a little tribute to Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart right there. Springboard moonsault by MJF, but he missed and he tweaked his knee. Tope suicida by Bryan. MJF with a half Nelson driver for a 2. Bryan then came in with a flying lariat. Both men traded pinfalls back and forth. Cradles back and forth. Sunset flip pins back and forth. Very close near falls. We had a big lariat by MJF. Bryan bounced right back up. Big lariat by Bryan. Both men were down. Bryan kipped up. He hits the Busaiku knee on the money. And Bryan gets the first fall. He is now up 1-0. MJF then with a low blow. And he got disqualified. So it was 2-0. And then MJF, in one of the most ingenious strategies in Iron Man match history, MJF, after he got himself disqualified with the low blow, MJF pinned Bryan. He pinned Bryan once, 1, 2, 3, and then he pinned him a second time to tie it up 2-2. Absolutely ingenious. The guy is an absolute fucking master of his craft and an absolute mastermind in between those ropes. So Bryan came back with a missile drop kick, and then he hit MJF with a clothesline. We just hit the 30-minute mark. Bryan then with kicks while MJF was sitting in a chair on the floor, running drop kick to MJF while he was against the barricade. Bryan then targeted the injured knee, locked in the figure 4. MJF screamed, "I hate you, Bryan. I hate you, you son of a bitch." MJF then slapped Bryan. Bryan slapped him back. MJF just got to the ropes. Both men were on the apron. They traded strikes back and forth to their injured limbs. Both men were on the top. Bryan was punched off of the turnbuckle. MJF tore apart the timekeeper's table, and MJF, in a rare moment by MJF does a high spot. MJF goes for a high spot that we don't normally see from him. MJF with a flying elbow drop through the table, flying Shawn Michaels-like elbow drop through the table, through the timekeeper's table. Both men were down. MJF just got back into the ring. Bryce made the count, and then Bryan just beat the count. MJF then became obsessed here, gave Bryan a tombstone pile driver on the table rubble. Bryan had a cut on his forehead. He wasted no time, did MJF. Heat seeker by MJF in the ring, and MJF takes the lead 3-2. MJF screamed at Bryan, "You fucking suck. I am the best in the world." He then raked at the cut, screaming at the camera, "Hey, Birdie, hey, buddy, I told you this would happen to Dada." Bryan, he could barely stand. Bryan slapped MJF. MJF then with a headbutt. Bryan then sent MJF into the post. Flying knee off the apron by Bryan. Bryan went up with a diving crossbody to the floor onto MJF. Both men were on the top. Bryan with the spider suplex and then a diving headbutt. MJF was busted open. It was bad. He was bleeding fucking profusely. I was actually a little worried for him. We then had the regal stretch. The regal stretch, and MJF tapped out. We are now even at 3-3. MJF with the salt of the earth. It was in deep. A second arm hooked, leg hooked. It was a 3-limb submission. He had one arm with the salt of the earth, the other arm hooked, and then the right leg. And then Bryan had to reach with his left leg in order to reach the ropes. Unbelievable. Bryan just got to the ropes. Crowd is chanting, "This is awesome." Crowd is chanting, "This is awesome." He went for another heat seeker. MJF went for another heat seeker. He got it, but Bryan kicked out. MJF took water again. Bryan was up on the top, hammer and anvil elbows to MJF. MJF reversed it. Tombstone pile driver from the middle rope. It looked brutal. MJF then took his knee. He held his knee. The crowd was chanting, "Fight forever." Bryan then, with a single leg crab. MJF was in pain. MJF had 45 seconds left. MJF refused to give up. 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The time elapsed. The time elapsed. And MJF tapped out just as the clock struck 0. MJF tapped out as soon as the clock struck 0, and MJF and Bryan ended in a draw. The crowd was chanting bullshit. All of a sudden, Tony Schiavone then went down to the ring. He went down to the ring, and he told Justin Roberts what's going on, and Justin Roberts made the announcement that Tony Khan will not allow this match to end in a draw. This is to continue under sudden death rules. The crowd was hyped as all hell. MJF then pushed the ref. Bryan almost stole it. Low blow behind the referee's back. Bryan kicked out again. Bryan then with a poison rana on MJF. The Busaiku knee connects. 1, 2. MJF kicked out. MJF kicked out. MJF locked in the single leg crab again. MJF got to the ropes. He tapped out just as he got to the ropes. Bryan actually thought he won. Bryan thought he won. MJF outsmarted Daniel Bryan. MJF then took the oxygen tank that the paramedics had because he was being gifted oxygen after the elapsed original 60 minutes. He took the oxygen tank, and behind the referee's back, he bashed Bryan with the oxygen tank. Bryce didn't see it. And then we had the label lock locked in on Bryan. The label lock locked in on Bryan by MJF. Arm drag dropped once. It dropped twice, but it did not drop the third time. Bryan was trying to fight it. The crowd was coming alive, but in the end, in a shocking conclusion, just like similar to the Hangman and Moxley match, Bryan Danielson taps out. I don't think I've ever seen Bryan tap out in AEW or in WWE, if I'm going to be quite honest with you. Bryan taps out. Bryan tapped out to MJF and the LaBelle Lock, and MJF solidifies himself as one of the greatest champions of our generation. He solidifies himself as the Iron Man of AEW. He outlasts Bryan Danielson, and he proved to everyone that he is, in his eyes, the best wrestler in the world. Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? I don't know where Bryan goes from here, but if we're going to be talking about the Blackpool Combat Club, I think that Bryan, Claudio, and Moxley would be phenomenal opponents for the House of Black. So that one's pretty easy. That one's pretty easy. But as far as MJF goes, I do believe that we will be seeing Hangman Page and MJF at Double or Nothing. But the main thing to be concerned with after Double or Nothing is going to be the return of a certain someone. Everyone has been talking about it. CM Punk, CM Punk, CM Punk. CM Punk did not show up last night. I was not expecting him to. But after what MJF has been doing, after we got FTR back, after the Elite just lost the Trios Championships, I truthfully believe that we will indeed see CM Punk back at the end of Double or Nothing. I believe that we're going to get Hangman Adam Page and MJF in a great match. MJF is going to beat Hangman Page, and then before the show goes off the air, we will indeed see Phil Brooks. We're going to hear that fabled music. We're going to hear Cult of Personality one more time, and Phil Brooks will reemerge, and we will be looking down the barrel of CM Punk versus MJF for the AEW World Championship at All Out in Chicago. And to think what MJF is going to have on his resume coming out of the last 365 days as the world champion. Ricky Starks, Bryan Danielson, Hangman Adam Page. If they want to do Jungle Boy in between Double or Nothing and All Out, Jungle Boy and CM Punk. Think about how great MJF and his world title reign is going to look after all of that. Think about it. MJF will go down as the greatest AEW world champion of all time. I don't think anyone is going to outdo him. I really don't. An absolutely incredible Iron Man match to cap off what was the best Revolution ever, probably the best AEW pay-per-view ever, a surefire contender for pay-per-view of the year, and a pay-per-view that saw not one, not two, but three match of the year candidates. This was an excellent pay-per-view, and I'm very much looking forward to what we're going to see on Dynamite this coming Wednesday, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Ring of Honor has to offer on Thursdays going into Supercard of Honor. An absolutely fantastic show from top to bottom. I do not have enough praise for anyone that went into this show and everything that all of those wrestlers, all the producers, the referees, and Tony Khan himself did. An absolutely incredible fucking show. But ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up this edition of The Rewind. A busy weekend for the DJ Storms brand wraps up once again. I hope you guys had a wonderful time. Thank you all for taking the time to come out and watch me. You guys are great. Thank you to Big Boy Johnny, Hula Grim, DD. Thank you to Peanuts. Thank you to Danielle Wolf. You guys are fantastic. Do not forget, like, comment, subscribe. Do not forget to be on the lookout for some new content coming to you guys in the next couple weeks. We got this Saturday at 7 p.m. in Westwood, New Jersey. It's a live ISPW event. It is being headlined for around $25 for admission, and then $40 for the front row. Very, very cheap. So if you guys are on the East Coast, come on down to Westwood, New Jersey on Saturday, March 11th at 7 p.m. It is being headlined by Rick Recon versus Tommy Dreamer and Crowbar versus Alpha Jr. It's going to be a great show. Then we also got Total New Jersey playing host to ISPW for ISPW Living in the Now, where Hale Collins will be fighting Bull James for the ISPW World Heavyweight Championship. It's going to be a great match. Looking forward to that as well. Be on the lookout because the last week in March, going into the first weekend in April, it's going to be packed. Rundown for Super Card of Honor, rundown for Stand and Deliver, rundown for WrestleMania, rewind for both Super Card of Honor and Stand and Deliver, rewind for WrestleMania Night 1 and rewind for WrestleMania Night number 2. It is going to be packed. It is going to be great. Thank you all for joining me. I greatly appreciate all of you. I will be seeing you this Saturday for yet another brilliant edition of the Lightning Flash Update. But not only that, hope you guys didn't forget, because JV Thunder is back, and after his return and that excellent cover of Shout at the Devil, after that phenomenal cover of Shout at the Devil that we saw, we are back this Sunday, March 12th. We're dropping a new cover. For those of you that love the 80s, you may have heard of a band called Quiet Riot, and we are doing the cover of Wild and the Young by Quiet Riot. So if you guys are into Quiet Riot, you guys love some 80s rock and roll, they always say, no rock and roll, no rock and roll, no rock and roll. Well, there will be rock and there will be roll. There'll be plenty of rock and roll coming to you guys this Sunday, March 12th at 2 p.m. as we drop yet another phenomenal drum cover. This time, it is Quiet Riot, the Wild and the Young. So keep your eyes peeled for that. It's going to be good. We're not just great at professional wrestling reviews over here on the channel. No. We're great at musical covers. It is going to be great. But until next time, I'm DJ Storms. This has been The Rewind. But before we get out of here, one last important question for everybody here that's watching the stream. Please tell me, baby, tell me, who runs the IWC? Looks like Hula Grim just answered the question for me. I'll tell ya who runs the IWC. Who but DJ motherfucking Storms. And don't you forget it.